here. It's really overwhelming, and we're glad that you're able to come and learn about how you can repair your stream bank, especially after the rain and all the changes to our streams. My name is Ann Phillip. I'm the Stormwater and Floodplain Administrator for the town, and I have some of my cards up here if you'd like. If you have any questions about any of those things, including regulation, when you need a permit. If your stream has a regulated 100-year floodplain, any stream bank restoration will need a floodplain permit, and all the fees are waived through June 30th of this year for storm-related activities like that. And we'll talk about regulation a little bit more in the context of the presentation tonight. But just to say, if you're just planting with live stakes, that's completely fine. If you're gonna start moving earth around, take my card and give me a call, because we wanna make sure you do everything correctly and that you won't have to redo anything later. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'd love to introduce Renee Fortner from Riverlink, and she will tell you a little bit about Riverlink and how they partner with us as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Renee Fortner. I'm the Director of Programs at Riverlink, and we're based in Asheville, but we work throughout the French Broad River watershed and on the Swananoa River, which is part of the French Broad watershed. Our mission is to promote the environmental and economic vitality of the French Broad River watershed, and we partner regularly with local towns and communities like the town of Black Mountain to provide resources to residents around stormwater runoff and stream restoration. And so we currently have a program that we've gotten grant funding for. It's called Adopt a Stream. And through that program, we're working with private property owners to help repair damaged streams. So we're focusing on these smaller scale restoration projects that Bill and Mitch are going to talk about tonight. So if you have a damaged stream, or if you know someone that does, please refer them to our program. We may be able to help. You can find the information. There's a flyer actually here at the front of the room about that program. What else? We brought some snacks. Please help yourself. We don't want anyone getting hangry. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill.
All right, very good. Thank you, Renee. I'm Bill Lord. This is Mitch Woodward. We're both with NC State. I'm sort of retired, but I've come back to Harlem. And Mitch and I have been doing string workshops a long time, and we've been in the water business for 30 years or so. And we started off on Neuse River with all the problems they had there a long time ago. And we did a workshop this morning in Burnsville on the Cane River, a big muddy mess. And but nonetheless, good workshop. We had 40 people, Renee?
Yeah.
40 people, yeah. And Renee had to go talk to the Rotary Club, which is good. And spread the word, so that's good. And we're having computer issues here, as you can tell. So I'm not totally helpless without a PowerPoint. Oh, you got it! Look at that. We got a clicker. Look at that. We're in a good place. I'll talk to you. I don't want to confuse you with buffers. I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff. But rules and regulations. Who owns the Swananoa River? We do. You got it. Who's we?
Everybody.
Yeah, the people of the United States of America. And therefore, it's regulated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You guys know a lot of these names now. Unfortunately, you've become familiar with them. And depending upon the type of stream you have, they could very well regulate it. And streams have classifications. And what we're concerned with are perennial streams, streams that run year-round. And if it's a perennial stream, it's a regulated stream. And they determine what you can and cannot do in that stream. So basically, we try to stay out of the water with these things. Of course, we do it. To the extent that we can. There's a whole other discipline called stream restoration, which is these are highly engineered and expensive solutions. They get into water and do things. Anybody ever seen that done? A lot going on, but that's not, we're talking about stream bank repair. And there's a great need for that too, particularly after what happened in September. It's interesting, today we're on the Cane River, outside of Burnsville, and in a big debris field. I've got a house up in Mitchell County, near the Tow River, and it's completely scoured out. There's nothing left, no feature left, you know. But we were in a big debris field this morning, and what's even more interesting is we were standing on a sort of a dike that was, the farmer had diked his fields, but it was on a previously restored stream reach, and it held up. The landowner he pointed that out right away. Whoever did that work, right? And it was our RC&D. Hip, stand up and tell them what you guys did there. Tell them what they did.
Hi, I'm David Zila. I work with Blue Ridge RC&D, and before I came on, they were part of the stream restoration
Tell them
project.
what RC&D is.
Thank you, Bill. Resource Conservation and Development, and we helped the Davis Farms access the state grant program, and they did an engineered repair of that incised bank there, with boulder toe, so they replaced the toe of the bank with boulders and geolifts, and then the matting and vegetation, and that was 2023, I think, when that vegetation went in, and it held up, and Mr. Davis was pretty happy. I came in and talked with him, and he said thanks, and I said, oh, I didn't do it, it was the contractor, and he said, well, tell that contractor they did a good job.
So it's good to know they use a lot of the techniques we teach. Now, look at the slide up here. You guys ever heard of this? Is that a true statement? North Carolina is a land of water. This is a website put together by some coastal geologists in East Carolina, and it's about eastern North Carolina, but it's true here too. What's the nickname for Transylvania County? Land of water. Might as well be here too, right? We're in the land of water, and we get a lot of water. And I don't need to tell you that, but we're in the land of water. And we get these big ones. This was Florence that came up and hit Elizabethtown, 36 inches of rain. And overtopped I-40 and I-95. They shut down the interstates for 4 days down there. And that happens with some regularity. It's not like here, water wants to flow downhill and concentrate in any scenario. And down there it room is spread out, and it spreads out. It had that luxury here because it concentrated into the valleys. But, we get them. That's Helene right there. I don't need to, wear you out with that. And there's Mitch and Marshall with the 1916 flood high water mark. I think it was, I got this thing, it says it was 1.5 feet above that 1916 flood. It's just the scale of what hit Marshall. And, it's amazing where you are in your watershed, because the top of your watershed is where? It's right that way, not that far away. It just tells you the amount of rainfall you got to generate that much water, and you understand. And this, let me back this up. If you're going to work around streams, you need to get permission, and talk to the town. That's the first place to start. And don't just do stuff and hope it works out. Now, things are different after Helene, but I want to tell you what the actual rules were, because they're going to be that way again. And we talked about that, stream determinations, I talked about that. There's the definition of a perennial stream. It stays wet year-round, but we also have intermittent streams, and we have ephemeral streams. So just be aware there are classifications of them. If it's running year-round, you need to be careful what you do in the water, basically. And I'm not going to talk too much about buffers. There are buffer rules around the state. Some of the rivers have regulated buffers. Neuse and Tar have 50-foot regulated buffers. Some towns have 100-foot buffers. But they really don't want you doing anything in there. They're trying to protect the integrity of the stream bank. They also purify the water. And you realize here in particular that they hope that they maintain the integrity of the stream bank. And do you really want to be within 100 feet of a stream at some point? It makes you think. They're the programs. And you got trout water buffers in this part of the world. Why do we have trout water buffers? What does trees do to trout? Well, they stabilize. Sediment is the #1 water pollution problem in the state and the nation, and it stabilizes the stream bank, but it gives you shade. Temperatures above 70 degrees, trout die. And so shading streams is really important. That's why we have these trout waters. We have this floodplain mapping program. Mary, you have a floodplain administrator here?
That's me.
That's you.
So,
Okay.
yes, my name's Ann Phillip, and I have some cards up there. If you have any questions about floodplain administration, essentially anything in the 100-year floodplain, any development will be regulated.
So look, read that slide. See, just
Are
there are the
you
bullets
from
on that
Black
slide.
Mountain or
Yes.
from Buncombe County?
Black Mountain, yeah. So I'm here in Black Mountain, just for the town boundaries of Black Mountain.
So,
And Buncombe County has their own floodplain administrator.
all right, the
Yes.
second bullet says no rise. Notice that? And it says, you can't place fill in a regulated floodway. They're trying to prevent flood problems in the future, is what that's about. And, the things you can do in a floodway do not cause problems. And that's what we're gonna talk about tonight, is, you can remove invasive plants, you can plant native plants, but when you start moving soil around, it kind of changes things. And, you could potentially elevate the floodplain, cause more flooding, and that's why you need to talk to her if you start moving soil around. And so, that's an issue there. Let me just get through some of this. The main drivers before, and this can be very confusing, if you get in the water and do work, start moving rocks around or moving channels, then you need a federal permit. That's called a 404 permit. And when you do that, you also need a state 401 permit, which is an erosion control permit for the bank. So if you get in the water, you start triggering all this stuff. And you can get them, it takes time, you're dealing with the Army Corps and the Division of Environmental Quality, but they're real serious about it. And so if you get in the water, you need to know that and deal with them so you don't have to go back and correct something, which tends to be expensive. And they are serious, so, realize that, and I'll just flip through that. And post-Helene, the Army Corps put this fact sheet out, talking about sort of relaxing the rules to get things back, like stream crossings. It said if it was there, you could put it back. And some things also they said with agricultural activities, if the stream moved across the field, you could move it back. That's extraordinary for them to say that. We don't know what kind of situation we're in right now. This was their fact sheet then. And it's in a state of flux, is it not, Renee? So be careful when you're doing these things. Yes.
And I just want to point out, the Army Corps and the DEQ permitting is actually separate from the town floodplain permitting. So if your stream has a regulated floodplain, and if you're interested, I can show you how to find that out. It's on the public website. Then you'll need to get a permit through the town if you're doing anything more than just planting live stakes.
Yeah.
If you're adding fill, if you're adding gravel, if you're putting a shed in, if you're wanting to put a bridge across the stream, these are all things that we'll need to make sure you're doing correctly, so you don't have to redo it in the future for it to be safe for everybody, including yourself.
If you're not in a floodplain.
If you're not in a floodplain, you will only be talking to Army Corps and the Division of Water Resources at DEQ.
If you're moving soil next to a stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is Army Corps. I'm just going to flip through this because, well, the real, question that we deal with all the time in the Army Corps and these projects is, where's the water start? Does that make any sense to you? Mm-hmm. And that's a real good question, and they have a term for it. It's called ordinary high water. How's that sound? And that's a big deal, and that's what this slide's about. What is ordinary high water mark? And they got, it's where the vegetation starts. And on a natural stream, it's pretty easy to tell. On a disturbed stream, it's not. In a lot of our cities, the streams are disturbed that through development activity. We have a lot of scoured out, we call, incised streams in urban areas. When you pave over more than 20% of a watershed, the streams biologically die. And a lot of that is from flashy flows. They get blown out, the stream starts cutting down, and you lose the natural characteristics. And then it's hard to tell. Sewer easements are famous for this. Hard to tell where the water starts. And for instance, here you can see it. I got an arrow on it. Over here, it's a little more difficult, but it's where the vegetation starts. It's pretty simple here and here, but here's a sewer easement. You run into those in towns all the time, and you got this rubble field, and we got the Army Corps guy there, and he starts pointing it out. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that, but these are difficult to tell. But if you stay above ordinary high water, you don't have to worry about anything with Army Corps, as long as you're not moving soil around. And this is the Army Corps guy pointing that out. Now, this is what happened with Helene. We had a guy this morning bring this up. The farmer showed up. This is up in Mitchell County, and this is I've got a house up there, and, look on the right there, there was a pasture, stream came way up, and you got an incised stream now, you got a sheer cliff. Where's ordinary high water on that? Well, we don't know. And the Army Corps put out a notice saying all their stream gauges were blown out in the flood, and they don't know where ordinary high water is either. And the question is, what can you do in a situation like, you got much of that you don't have much of that in town, do you?
We have seen vertical banks like
Yep.
that in town, and some cobble, and Flat Creek has
My
been
property
used.
has it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, in this case, I'd get somebody out and take a look at it. So what are you gonna do there? You know, what would you like to do there?
I wanna get my land back,
There you go. Some of it's down in Tennessee now.
because if I do a shallow
That's right.
rise, that's gonna take my whole backyard.
You wanna
It's-
grade
I mean,
it?
it's 10 feet deep and 20 feet
There
wide,
you go.
and this creek used to flow 6 inches wide.
No, but this
It
is
makes
just
too much
reality.
of it.
This is, and we don't know what to tell you on that right this minute. And if you wanna go to work on that, I would put in a request to get the Army Corps to come out and put a flag on it. Take a picture of it and say,
I
this is what I
talked to
can
them
do.
at Town Square,
Pardon?
but I talked to them at Town Square, but
Okay.
they haven't come out to
But,
my
I mean,
property.
that's just the reality of what happened right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of farmers are in that boat. You know, if you pulled that towards the stream, you know, you wouldn't be adding any fill, but it could potentially wash away.
Well, I hate to keep breaking in, cause we're just getting to the point in recovery where people are starting to be able to look at things like this, and the one thing I want you to walk away from is thinking, what you don't wanna do when you move things around in a stream bed is encroach upon the middle part of the stream, which is called a floodway or a non-encroachment area. If you don't have a floodplain, I'm not as involved with that, because I'm involved with streams that have a floodplain to them. But what you don't wanna do is constrict the flow of the water during a flood by putting something in the floodway or non-encroachment area. And that's why we need to have a surveyor or maybe even an engineer come out. And that's why if you have a floodplain, I reach out to me, we'll talk through it. But just to let you know, there is a reason behind it. It's not just permitting for permitting's sake. Because if you constrict the flow of the water, you're raising the base flood elevation, not just for your area, but possibly upstream, and certainly you're changing things downstream. So we can't just build back in a non-organized way. Have to consider all those things, and I understand it takes more time, but that's the reason behind it, is to not make you more at risk with the next flood.
Maybe I missed it, where did you all define floodplain and non-floodplain earlier?
No, but we can
Cause
talk about that.
I don't know what you
Maybe
mean
after-
by that.
Tell them where to look for it. That's the easiest thing. Get online, you can see it.
So there's a public website, North Carolina has a public website, and I'll spell it out for you if you wanna write it down. It's called FRIS, F as in Frank, RIS as in Sam, .nc.gov. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna type in your address, and then it'll send you right to the map. And if you see that there's a blue area, that's the area where the stream is when it's 100-year flood, or 1% chance of annual flood per year. The whole stream becomes that whole blue area. So if you're in a blue area, when you go to that website, give me a call.
Can you repeat it again?
Yes, sure. It's F as in Frank, RIS as in Sam, .nc.gov. Yes.
Yeah, we had a guy this morning, a farmer, who had a situation like this, and he wanted to get in the stream with a track hoe and drag the rock back. You know, that's when you start to get iffy areas, you know, so, but it's tough. Now, you know, I'm a little being a little vague and evasive, because we don't really know what the rules are right now. But when in doubt, ask permission, and, because you don't wanna be asking forgiveness. Now, if you fix your stream bank, we're gonna show you how to do that tonight. Let me just show you what you don't wanna do. For instance, this is what happened. This is typical urban stream. Somebody went up above this guy and built a development, and they have the right to discharge that water. And we have a lot of development going on in North Carolina. And this could happen to you, you know, outside of a hurricane event. You could have someone go above you and build a parking lot, and all of a sudden you got floods. And that's what happened to this guy. And we actually fixed that. But, you know, we advocate for letting these things grow up. And, you know, these are well-managed ditches and streams right here. Now, why do people buy property next to lakes and rivers and streams? Because they want to see the water. You got a built-in conflict right there. And we have the equipment and the chemicals to keep it clean now. But is that necessarily a good thing? Well, we need to think about that, particularly in light of what just happened to us here. And the way to keep these stream banks intact is to have vegetation. That's the bottom line. And we'll show you examples of this. Hardened structures are going to fail because the water gets behind them or under them and they fail. And that generally does not fail. Vegetation does not fail. So the trick is to leave that alone. And you know, the taller it is, the better it does. Let it grow. That's really, a lot of people have a lot of trouble with that. I was involved in you got your slides up?
It's almost there.
It's coming. I was involved in
Keep talking.
In a quail project down east where we got the farmers, they all lamenting the demise of quail and they need food and cover, and they were mowing their ditches twice a year. We got them to stop mowing their ditches, and it lasted about a year. And they started mowing again. You know why they were mowing again? Peer pressure from their neighbor. Their farmers ride around, look at each other and say, "Hey Jack, your mower broken?" You know, and you know, it was just so peer pressure, and they start mowing it again. Same thing happened with you. Neighbors want to know why you let everything grow up, and it's peer pressure. It's human behavior, but you know, let it grow. That's good. What you're seeing right there. You know, if you got invasive plants, which we have lots of them, I'm gonna talk to you about them. You know, Japanese knotweed, Chinese silvergrass, Bradford pears are about to show up. If you catch them early, just pull them up, and that's what this guy's doing. You know, don't wait too long. Here's a mix with a chainsaw cutting up privet that's big around as your thigh. You know, and you got tons of privet too. After a big rain, look at things. If you've got problems getting started, fix them right then. And we're going to show you lots of techniques on how to fix these blowouts and erosions, you know, erosion spots and gullies. This is one up in Henderson County, and they got a little landslide there on that stream bank. Look how close the house is. Yeah. You don't want to wait on that. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. So, you know, you can fix things up. We're going to show you how to fix something like that, like with natural materials and plants, and it will permanently fix it if you leave it alone. You know, you got to keep the livestock out to the extent that you can, and to the extent that you can, wildlife. And so what you don't want to do is weed eat it and mow it and spray it. This is a project we did up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee 2 years ago, and we put signs up, and I'll show you what happened there. So we did this stream reach right in the middle of Murfreesboro. Did it with the University of Tennessee and the Cumberland River Compact. And when we started on it, a woman comes out of the strip mall next to it and says, "What are you guys doing to my creek?" And she was a nurse practitioner, and she came out and ate lunch out there every day. And she says, "This is my creek." And we thought, well, we got it made here. She's going to be an advocate for this project. She's going to keep people away from it. So we told her what we're going to do. Here we are doing the restoration. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about it tonight. And we told the Cumberland River guys to get these signs made. There it is. Do not mow, spray beyond this point. So we got it in. They sent us slides. The live stakes on the right, those are willows growing. Look, we got wildlife blend in there. This was in June. Everything was going great. I saw the guy in August, and guess what? They mowed it flat. Went in there with zero-turn mowers and mowed it flat. Now, who's got a zero-turn mower? We're back to human behavior. They're big, they're fast, aren't they? And they're dangerous. So when you're on one, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. You also got to be able to read English. And if you're on that mower, you're looking up at 4 feet of the sign that's right there with the handicap signs and only park here. They didn't read those signs. They just went right past it. They were just doing their job. So we decided the best thing to do is to put some like wire cable about a foot off the ground, well marked, where if they hit it with the mower, it's going to wrap around the spindle and stop the mower. You just got to deal with, you're not being malicious. You're just trying to protect your property. But you got to do that if you're in an area where there's regular maintenance going on. And if it's a sewer right away, they're going to do it anyway because they're going to keep those sewer right aways clean. They have to be able to get in there. So think about where you do this work. And you're trying, we want to let it grow. But sometimes you've got to be proactive to make that happen there. No weed eaters, very careful spraying herbicides and no tree cutting. That's a nice riparian buffer there. That's what we're trying to see in these things. So don't work in the water. use native plants and trees. If you disturb any soil, stabilize it, and control invasives. Are you up?
He's got my talk, so.
Okay, all right,
I
here we
gave it to
go.
him and he ran out of the room,
Yeah,
so.
oh, the screen just went blank. That's a good sign.
So maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah.
He's-
Anybody got any, I
it's
don't
on
want to
remote
confuse you on
control.
regulations, but just be aware you're working in a sensitive area and trying to prevent future problems, yes.
I have a section on the river that's also under the transmission power line.
That's another complicating factor.
It is, because Duke Power kills anything that's under the power lines.
They don't want trees either.
No, we had bamboo, I realize bamboo's considered invasive, but it held that bank because the bank is in a right-hand turn.
Are they mowing it or spraying it or both? Well, you need to talk to them about dropping the spray program and going to the mow program.
We asked them if they would leave it, the transmission lines are way up in the air.
Yeah.
I understand they don't want anything contacting it, but they cut it off right down at the ground
I'm right
and
with you.
sprayed it. So, if they could leave it.
You gotta talk to them and get up on your.
I haven't had any luck, so I don't know
Yeah.
if there's an agency that's an intervener with Duke Power.
They
you know?
kind of trump everything else. I mean, they got a lot of power. And once your power is on, Mitch and I are going down to Atlanta next Thursday and doing this workshop, and we're gonna go to Georgia Power.
Just one or three.
And guess what? No trees.
The one.
We're gonna do shrubs and herbaceous
And
plants
then
there.
quickly
but it's a problem.
transition
You can get them just
into
not to spray.
3, which is the
But
construction
most,
example.
all right. It's okay, you can keep herbaceous
If
plants.
we can keep the roots in the ground.
That's right, and these species we're gonna show you are mostly small trees and shrubs, and it's okay to cut them off, and their root systems are massive, they hold back. You can do things like native grasses, that have massive root systems, we'll show you those. So you've got options, if they would spray, that'd be the trick.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
Well, I was just gonna add, we were told, we were told by a Duke Energy contractor that sprayed herbicide on the stream bank repair job that we did a couple years ago, that if we put up no spray signs along the project area, they wouldn't spray it.
did it work?
The signs got washed away by Helene. But
Worth a try.
yeah, it
So
could be
far,
worth a
nothing
try.
has worked.
Yep.
We've asked them, not to spray.
I tried that same trick with DOT, and they mowed down the plants and the sign. So,
Yeah.
Oh, well.
but I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna put a bigger sign with
Larger letters.
bigger stakes. I'm Mitch Woodward. I work with Bill. Actually, I work by myself because Bill's in retirement, but it's not going well for him. So he's back. He's back. So I'm gonna share, I'm not gonna give you the whole slide set, but I wanna show you some of the things we've been involved with. If you look at the picture on the lower right, that is what we call a stream bank blowout. Does anybody have a situation like that?
All around
Okay,
us.
all over, okay. So you'll see the use of coir, which is a fancy college word for coconut. That's all it is, coconut fiber. And live stakes, some whips, and even in this cavity, we just get it and we stuff it up there. You can get it in rolls. We can stuff it up. It's called a brush mattress. If you can go on Google, for example, and Google stream bank repair brush mattress. If you just put brush mattress into Google, I don't know what you come up with. But stream bank repair brush mattress, it'll look like this. So, anybody use artificial intelligence, AI? Anybody go on ChatGPT? Very good. Go on ChatGPT and enter 10 recommended materials for repairing stream banks. And then you can, it's how you ask the question. If you ever use AI, it's exactly how you answer or ask the question. So we won't go into this, just realize streams are a big issue.
So
All
you're
right.
saying like for a cavity where it's actually
Yeah.
plugged in, you would just shove it up in there?
You can do that because number one, you're not moving soil,
Right,
which will trigger an Army Corps or DEQ permit.
yeah.
And you're not filling the
Yeah.
floodplain.
How does it stay in there?
You need to, I'll show you
Okay.
the hardwood stakes. So there's live stakes. All right, live stakes and of certain species, and there are dead stakes or 2x2, what we call hardwood stakes. So it'll all become clear. And again, has everybody shot this with their phone, the QR
I
thing?
haven't done it.
Okay.
Which one was that for?
All right, this is for the one with the materials from our workshop, our full workshop. You're gonna get the workshop in about 2 hours tonight, not the full workshop. That'll take you to our list of materials. So you're welcome to take notes, but all of the notes, the manual that we have on small scale stream bank repair, live stake species, how to install them, how-to videos before and after, it's all on that site.
Can you say the name of the site for those of us that don't have the phone with us?
Oh, the name of the site, you would go to, the easiest way would be to enter NCSU Stream Bank Repair Workshop. That'll take you right to it. Stream Bank Repair Workshop. And it'll be a list of materials. If you can't find it, talk to Ann, talk to Renee, they can email me, and we can get that to you. So what do you see here? The tale of two stream banks. On the left, you see native woody vegetation. See any damage? On the right, you see a grass field. This is typical of what we saw in the upper part of the watershed. In the lower part of the watershed, it just ripped everything out. This is in the upper part of the watershed, smaller watershed. You can tell about where the stream was. It was about here. And it just ripped all this out. So how do you go about stabilizing that? Well, you've got a little bank there. Maybe we can regrade it, put some coir on it, put some stakes, hold it down with hardwood stakes. And you know, if you're working down close to the ordinary high water, they want you to contact Army Corps to do what they call a determination.
Real quick question.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
When you regrade it, do you have to go through the permitting of the Army Corps?
This is where the gray area is.
Okay.
Because if you were to regrade this, it's all how you do it. Because if you cut that bank down and didn't go very far into this area, which you wouldn't anyway, because you can't build up enough soil to avoid those rocks. But if you cut this down on a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 slope, don't bring any fill in.
Yeah.
Don't take any out. Right? Then you could put the matting and the staking. And from what we have been told, that is okay. What triggers the permit, it's kind of doing its own thing.
Oh, do you want me to move it forward?
That's okay, leave it there.
Okay.
Leave it there. That's fine. I'll stop pushing the buttons.
Okay.
I got confused there. What triggers the permit is if you're bringing fill in, especially if you bring hardscape there. What Bill was talking about was what the landowner wanted to do today at the workshop was get the rock out of the stream, pick it up, and stick it against the bank. Practically, it looks like that would be a really good solution. But if you're working below ordinary high water, you may say, well, it's not there, it's here. Well, you need to have a determination done. And it takes about 4 months sometimes to get that done. So we don't know where it is. We don't know where ordinary high water is because all the indicators are gone. This is in Patton Park in Hendersonville. And this is a live stake area that was a washed out area if you've ever been to Patton Park. This is about 4 years old. This site had 10 feet of water in it, moving fast. This is after Helene, no damage.
So
Can you manually? There we go. Okay, I'm sorry, question?
Yes, your question, or your statement earlier about not needing a permit, if you're in a floodplain, yeah.
Well, that's the,
from
that's the,
town,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
not from Army Corps.
If you're working in a floodplain,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I don't wanna be interpreting town or federal law. But if you're in a floodplain, like Ann had said, you're gonna have to get approval to do something there. And the other thing about the live stakes is, we're quickly approaching the time when they're not going to root, because they like to be installed during the dormant time of the year.
Yeah.
So here, maybe April 1st might be a very, very last time you could do this. And if you've got kind of a questionable situation that you're working with, you can't get anybody to do the determination, that's okay. I'm saying take a deep breath, get somebody out there so that you can be set up for this winter, this coming fall and winter. That way you can locate some more of these live stakes, get them locally, and that way you can go into the winter with a plan, and every day you can kind of work away at it. So, question? Did you have a question?
I forgot what I was gonna ask. But, I tried to find out who the people were to talk to, and I got referred to 15 people, and I never could figure out. I never really got a straight answer on who the heck I was supposed to talk to. I have 15 names that I went to the buildings downtown Asheville, and I called people at the state level, and everybody referred me to somebody else.
There's a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I never,
We,
never got figured out who I was supposed to be talking to.
One of the things that we have done, and we've worked with Army Corps, I'm not here to defend anybody, but just say by my experience in the last 20 years, what I have done with Army Corps was I'll send them a picture like of a stream, like this, one of these. And I'll say, I want to put live stakes on the banks, not do any regrading, kind of describe the situation, send them an image of the site, maybe a Google Maps image of where the location is, and say, is it okay if I do 1, 2, or 3? Do I need a permit? And often they'll get back to me.
I know what I was gonna ask you. They say that the floodplain maps are outdated, so should we be, when we go to look to see if we're in the floodplain, should we assume that those are outdated maps, or are they current maps? Because I was told that the maps are outdated, and they are in the process of updating them. You may not have been in a flood zone before, but after Helene, you are in a flood zone.
So I can speak to that briefly. So the flood maps are updated on a regular basis. For our area, we were planned to have updates to the flood maps at the end of 2025. Now that was before they knew that Helene was coming. So what we're using now, at that website I told you about, gives you the floodplain maps, and that is the map we're using until new ones come out. Now there's going to be a public process when they do the floodplain map update. It could be the end of this year, it might be even the beginning of next year. But currently FEMA's out there taking pictures on the ground with LiDAR imagery that can basically tell you the topography of the stream bank. And so they're getting better images, and they should have those by the end of this year. Now, when another map will come out using that imagery is probably years from now. So we're required to use the maps that we have now. Yeah, I can see where that's confusing, yes.
Thank you, Ann. Let me cut to the meat of this and talk about restoration versus repair, because what we're focusing on is what you can do to repair streams, because restoration entails an engineered stormwater design by an experienced engineer, work on the site by an experienced contractor. You can fix a stream often for between $15 and $30 a linear foot if you're doing a repair by putting in coir, which would be the lower picture. Native plants, making a streamside forest, not doing any heavy duty excavation. And that's something that you can do on smaller streams. The big repairs, like realigning a stream channel, some of the work out there is definitely going to need engineers. Now you're up into the tens of thousands, up into the millions to do work like this. And you'll see some of this work continuing. And the permitting process is getting longer and longer to make that happen. So I just want to draw that distinction between repair, which is lower right, and restoration, which is upper right, where they're recreating the whole stream. So, question?
Did I briefly see, as you were flashing through a slide, that you do not need Corps approval to remove debris and whatnot from the stream?
Oh, well,
I mean, there's houses washed down in 30-foot pile, tall debris piles that have dammed the stream, and the stream's 200 feet from where it used to be.
And on McCain, where we were today, there were large patches of really thick woody debris and mud and sand, and then barren beach areas, like a beach, and then another, like a tree that held, and it just caught everything. It's what is there in terms of woody debris is actually doing some good because it's holding the bank. Just hope that we don't get another great big rain that's gonna loosen all of that and then flow downstream again. To move all of that, it's gonna be years if they ever get to that. I can't imagine getting down there, because it's wet and swampy. I don't know how you can ever get heavy equipment, it's gonna take heavy equipment to remove it. And we're half a mile off the road in a farm field, so I don't know how you would ever do it, you destroy the field, getting to and from it. So, we may have to work with what we've got. If you have bare areas, focus on those. What you'll notice is if you're doing a repair or restoration, one common theme is you want to create what they call tillwood. You need to get as much wood and live plant material at the toe of the slope as you can. Start there. Don't worry about the stuff 5 feet above ordinary high water.
Well, this is like 50% man-made plastic shingles, and there's literally whole houses and steel linings and cars and trailers and.
You can't really put in, because all we're working with is coir plant material and sticks, live sticks.
Which stream are you?
It's Flat Creek, but it's Flat Creek between Old Fort and Highway, back out in Morgan Hill, south.
So it's not in a town or?
No.
What county?
Buncombe.
So I do know they started stream debris removal at the beginning of February, and I'm not sure how long it'll take to get
Came out
around.
and looked at it, and the guy saw a little pile of brush before he got there. He goes, "Oh yeah, look at that, no problem." And then he got down to this mass, and his mouth fell open, and he was just like, "I don't think this is what they're talking about, residential debris removal."
When was that?
It's literally, this was a week or two ago.
Well, can I just interject really quickly?
Sure.
Because early on, there was a lot of confusion. And, the county has been taking reports. If you've been putting in reports to Buncombe County about your, damage to your streams or structures, there is a phone number you can call if you've not gotten any help. I'm sorry.
No, Allison, you should introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Allison Arnold. I'm with Buncombe County Cooperative Extension, and we're housed with Soil and Water, and we've been really involved in what the county's trying to do. Right now, they've been focused on debris removal from public right-of-ways. They're moving into private property. Housing has been a big issue. They're meeting and doing some training tomorrow for what's called Emergency Watershed Program.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, and so you need to get on their list. I mean, they had 2,000 applicants, they've whittled it down to 500. But let me give you this phone number if you've not gotten any traction. It's 250-6100. This is the One Buncombe call center, 250-6100. They actually have a website now, Buncombe County Recovery, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's not a lot of straight information. I personally have an approval from Army Corps and DEQ, but that was given to me, where are we now? What's the month?
It's called
February. This was probably in November.
I got one in November.
Yeah, and
or
I'm still
December
wondering
from
if
Army
it's gonna
Corps.
be honored.
Yeah.
They say that the Corps will honor it. If you have a number, it should still be good. Anyway, so that EWP, if you've gotten on that list, they're working. It can take 3 to 5 years for this thing to play out. But they are gonna start making site visits within the next couple of months. So, if you wanna get on that list, if you're not, but, that number will help you get some information. So I don't wanna railroad what Mitch and Bill are doing here, but there are sources for help, and we're trying to get you funneled in that way.
Is that the same as the FEMA private property entrance program that they have that I think Ash Britt is supposed to be the one handling the debris of that?
You mean for, debris removal from private property?
Yes, it's in a stream, it's a tree in a stream. And it's on, to access it, they have to go through private property.
Private
So
property.
I filled that out through the FEMA people, so I didn't know if that's the same program.
I don't know,
Uh-huh.
because there are multiple things leading to the same thing, and then FEMA's doing their thing, so.
Okay, so it is separate from that.
I would think so.
Okay.
So Allison, I really appreciate all that information. I just wanna mention, we have
Oh, yeah,
some flyers.
perfect.
I'm gonna make lots of copies of these. And they're the programs that I know about, the federally funded programs, the private property debris removal you were just talking about, emergency watershed protection program, and hazard mitigation grant program. So that's in case you were, you need anything from these programs. I'm just gonna make copies of these and we'll put them up front, and at the end, if you wanna come up and see if any of this is applicable to you, that'd be great.
Yeah, and in the next couple of weeks, Buncombe County's having, I don't know what they're called now, engagement events. And I think one's at Owen, Fairview, Leicester, there's one more kind of in a hard-hit area.
Owens is on February
20th.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a lot of resources there, so they've been out. So if you haven't really, been ready to engage, now's a good time to, get out, make the calls. Call extension, we're 255-5522, and we'll help you hook up as well.
What did you say was tomorrow?
Tomorrow, there's a stream bank workshop with Mitch and Bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's in
I
Woodford.
don't have those other dates, I'm really sorry, I didn't get
What's
that.
your number again?
255-5522. So anyway,
Okay.
thank you, Mitch.
One of the things, it strikes me that local organizations working with local government may be able to do is to find a really good source of live stake material and make it available easily, because often, in my experience in the last 20 years, it's harder to locate and source this material, go get it, bring it back, put it in the creek, store it, or in the bucket, store it. And when you go down the stream, the easiest part of doing it is actually putting it in the ground to get it to grow. It's actually finding this stuff. So we can somehow facilitate getting this material together in large quantity and having, people come get it in mass, maybe place orders and facilitate that. That would be an awesome thing.
I wanna mention a lot of the local nurseries have live stakes available, painters specifically down in Old Fort.
Painters,
But there are other nurseries around the area
about,
providing live stakes.
Foggy Mountain Nursery in West Jefferson.
I'm not sure.
It's a bit away, but they actually started it. So Foggy Mountain Nursery is another,
Oh, and
they're big.
I think Plants for Everyone, which is a local Asheville organization, also has live stakes available. So.
Good. There are 3 options when you're out there on the stream. Starting at the bottom, option 3, this is the lower cost and lower time. Simply create a no-mo zone. So you've got that bank, and it's like, you don't know whether you wanna grade it or not. You could simply put a bunch of native plants and live stakes right at that tip of that soil where it starts to drop, move in 10 feet, move in 20 feet. Native plants, create a no-mow zone, don't mow it, let it grow up. Put trees in, put live stakes in, and you'll create a no-mow zone. You can see why it eroded. It was grass right to the edge of water, right? Grass goes down about this feet, this many feet, that many inches, like 4 inches. It does not hold the soil. With these native plants, it goes down feet. So number 2, native plant species without regrading banks. That's what we were doing today. It's a nice bank. We just put in coir, put the stakes through it. You'll see some examples here. So that's a number 2. Number 1, regrade the slopes on a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 slope. Then you go with the matting, and then you go with the stakes. Kind of walk through. This is a small stream, I know. But if you stay out of the stream and you regrade, you can even use small equipment. This little incidental runoff, a few pieces of soil in the stream, We're told that happens. It's hard, it's a slope, right? As long as you're not changing the stream, as long as you're not dumping fill in the stream. So you would we put straw down sometimes native grass seed, but there's coir, and we stretch that in. Sometimes we use a trencher, it's not necessary, we stake it. You see the man on the left there, he's got the small stakes that go in the middle, the big stakes go on the outside. We really load it up along the water's edge. And what's cool about the coir is you can get your fingers in there and separate it and plant right inside. So you can do rush. So live stakes aren't the only plants you can go with. Everybody familiar with juncus, rush, some people call it watergrass. Rush is around and sedges have edges. It's the only thing I learned in horticulture. So the spiky rushes, they go right at the water's edge. They will do a wonderful job holding that area. All right, and we continue on. Here's our live stakes. The ones that are best performers, that are available, usually in mass, are silky willow, silky dogwood, 9-bark elderberry. Sometimes you'll see coralberry, dog hobble. They go right at the water's edge and up maybe 3 feet. Don't put these at the top of a 10-foot bank. It's a living shrub with no roots. So it likes to be in water. And you can see these are already starting to get root buds. See, it's starting to root already. See the white little buds here? It's starting to root. It's been in this bucket a while. It's been in water a while. They will grow in standing water, and that's what you want. You put it high and dry, it won't grow unless you can provide supplemental irrigation, unless you can water it. So, and by that, you can go low tech with a 5-gallon bucket of water and throw it up on the bank. Or some people use trash pumps, drop the inlet in the stream and just spray the whole bank. So keep it wet. This is what they look like when they're full grown. These are live stakes going in, and this is what they look like after they've grown up on this bank. You can see Bill, there's Bill. These get about 6, 8, 10 feet tall. They are multi-stem perennial woody shrubs.
And how long did it take to get to this?
That's about 4 years.
Okay.
That's about 4 years. The first year, it's creating root mass. You'll look at it and you go, boy, I didn't do anything. This was a waste of time. It's got all of its energy going into roots. The second year, it's going to start to sprout. Third year, it's up and going. So it looks like, it may look like it's not doing a whole lot. It is. It is. Each one of these stakes, if you can harvest them from an existing plant like this, you've already paid for it. It's free. You can cut the tops out of these plants and they come back. So it's a sustainable system. So if somebody has a successful area that's like low and wet, they can't do much with it, have a live stake nursery. They're not especially attractive, right? If you want to see more of the water, you can cut them with a hedge trimmer, right? But I would only do it once a year and don't cut it right down. Leave a little bit, and it will regrow. But what you don't see is all the roots that are there that are probably every bit as big as the top. And we see patches where these are well established and no damage. No damage to the banks. They will root in standing water. You can see the middle lower picture. That's what they look like. It's starting to root. I store mine in a stream on the left until they're ready to install. And there's a typical bank that's kind of unstable there on the right. They're using rebar, which isn't the best, but it'll make a pilot hole. And you can insert the stakes. Sometimes the best way to go is to wait after a rain like today. That would be very easy. And you'll develop a technique to put those in the ground, maybe sharpen the end with a pair of clippers in. And that's a perfect bank to load up with live stakes. You want one live stake for every linear foot of bank. So if you've got 100 feet that you're trying to stabilize, you want about 100 live stakes. But don't put them in every foot. You want to put them in 3 feet apart, 3 feet apart, go up a foot, and put one stake between the two you just put in at the edge of water. So one here, you'll see 3 feet, one here. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Well, let's do that again.
Surprise.
Yeah. All right, wow, okay, see, I'm not used to this high tech stuff. So, stake, and then see one up here, so see, but something triangle, what does triangle look like? And do that up and down the back. You could put them up here, but up here you might wanna go with, maybe a woody shrub, like, Virginia sweet spire. That is fine. It doesn't like as wet feet, but it'll grow when it's wet.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It looks like we're trying to put them in almost horizontally, is that the way we're supposed to?
Don't have to.
I'm just wondering if is there a proper way to put them in?
The one rule, you put them in any way you can get them in.
All right.
You just wanna get them in about 3/4 to 2/3 of the way. Of the stick, you want this thing, so here's a live stake, and this is more like a whip. Okay, so this is a live stake. You wanna put it in up to this level,
Oh, wow.
into the ground. So, my technique is to use my knee, and then just push it in like this. If you can't get it in this way, sideways is fine. Go sideways, just make sure that the bottom portion is covered with soil. The one rule that you shouldn't break though is that if this is upstream and this is downstream, the water's flowing this way, you want these to be pointed towards the downhill, because if you do this, it's gonna catch every leaf pack and junk and trash. It's gonna catch it and kill it. Down, the next flood, it's gonna push it off. So these are downstream.
Will this work in clay?
Clay, if you can insert these. If you've got any tool people, like Tim the tool guy here, get a DeWalt cordless drill, get a 2-foot concrete bit, or a 1/2-inch concrete bit, and just don't do like I do, drop it in the water, and drill, and insert, and drill, and insert, and it'll speed the process. If you've got rocky soil, this is great because the stick will kind of work its way through. You've got woody debris along the stream like we had today, like here. You know, you can't use a mat there because the mat's not gonna stay on the soil at all. I would just live stake that because it's kind of a natural looking. If you've got existing roots on the bank, leave them. Existing trash on the bank, I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do about like housing debris and pieces of sheds, and we're still seeing cars in ditches and things that are down that are hard to retrieve because they're down in the woods and upside down in the creek. I don't know what is gonna happen with that. But these can be very flexible. So it takes a while, like they say, time is money, but they will root, and you will get, it's not instant gratification, but for 50 cents, 75 cents to $1 a piece, it's close. We're trying to replicate this. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Here's an example of a blown out bank that we fixed. This is after a year. So it must have been some pretty fertile soil because we live staked that. It was kind of eating towards that path. It wasn't bad, but that was the growth after the first year, and now you can see the students down in there cutting it, so they're cutting these for other people that need them in western North Carolina. And that's what they look like when they're mature. Needless to say, there's no erosion. People say, it looks kind of junky, I can't see the water. Well, you know, so we hold workshops. We have a workshop tomorrow in Woodfin from 1 to 4, and we've got one in Asheville, 4 Lane from 9 to 12 on Saturday. It's on the website. Picnic tables do not make good stream bank repairs. This is the top of one. So this before and after, we regraded and put stakes in. It's early spring, so you can't really see what we've done, but it's very stable. This is part of green stormwater infrastructure. So we won't go into this part. Can we go to number 3?
Yes.
We'll go to construction. Does all that make sense? It's kind of like a real, just overview.
I have a question.
Sure.
So suppose you have like a mix of, like I have big rock outcrops close to the stream. We had a big mudslide in my community. And at the top, there's a kind of native soil, this soil and tree roots, kind of those rhododendron trees actually. It's a berm, but it's on the top of a big rock outcrop. So I'm just wondering, should I be trying to, plant live sticks below that, the big, boulder rock outcrop?
Is it in the shade? Is there any soil?
That is in the
Is there any
shade.
soil at all?
Yeah, on top of on top of those big rock outcrops, there is, but, and the stream is pretty, like 25, 30 feet down, like.
That soil's gonna dry out so quickly, if you try to put anything, like a big rock in the soil like this deep on top of that rock,
Yeah.
it's gonna dry out so quickly.
So do I need to do this on top of the?
I wonder if
boulder?
you could safely mat it, and we've had this discussion with landslides. Could you mat a slide and then live stake a slide and just take your chances that it's going to rain?
Yeah.
Because it is kind of on drier soil. Another thing you could do is like temporary seeding. People use annual rye or wheat grain or rye grain, not rye grass, rye grain. And it will sprout this time of year. You'll see the farmers that have it in the lowlands, it's starting to green up already. And here it is February.
So you suggest doing something above the big rock?
Maybe get some type of roots however you can. And I'm kind of wondering whether you could scratch in, because you can buy a 40-pound bag of rye grain or annual rye that will grow until about May or June, and it'll die because it dies in the summer. And then this fall, you could come in and live stake it. At least you get some temporary cover, because it'll create like a lawn type of a thing. Just don't use rye grass.
Yep, okay, I got it.
Unless it's like annual rye
Thank you.
or something like that. I think that might be, yeah, I would try that.
Real quick, if you wanna help stabilize the bank, trees, how far back?
Trees?
Yeah, we're talking 4 foot, like 90-degree bank that's been washed out.
Okay, it's been washed out and it's like vertical.
Yeah, and so live stake, some of it's washing away with rains like today. Long-term stabilization, how far back should the trees be?
And you're talking about installing like native trees
Like a
somewhere in that
cypress.
area. Usually the way we do it is like chunks and rush down at the water's edge, live stakes up 3 feet. And then back from there you go to either perennial shrubs like Virginia sweetspire, Itea, it's an Itea, dog hobble, or a little bit further back, bare root trees. Fringe tree, this is all in the manual that's on the website.
Okay.
Is this in your yard or is that
QR
natural?
code that's
It's
going
in the
on?
yard.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's a natural area, just go look at an undisturbed stream, and that's what you're trying to get back to. Yard, it's up to you what you want.
Yeah. I want it more natural, yeah.
You need to create a native plant buffer. The wider the better.
Cool.
But I'd say at least 10 feet, wouldn't you, Bill? 10 feet?
50 would be good.
And there is a manual called the Small Scale Stream Bank Repair Manual on this website. Look that up, and it has a planting plan that does that very thing. There's some plants that we really like that have done well. Was there another question? Question?
More a comment than a question. We have a lot of historical disturbance to our woods and their streams. So whatever is growing there now possibly doesn't belong there, and what you're talking about would be like a fresh start.
That's legit. We'll talk about invasive species in the next talk too.
Well, let's get into more of the detailed construction. And here's a couple sites that we worked on. We'll kind of go through this. This is the small scale solutions guide. Now, and this is the QR code. So if you shot this, it's on this site. If you just want to go to this and look it up, it's called the NCSU Small Scale Solutions Guide. And just this title, and it'll come up. So this is in the back page, you can see, so we've got everything from river birch, fringe tree, dog hobble, Virginia sweetspire, okay, and down low, rush, live stakes, silky dogwood stakes. So that's kind of like the stylized plant. Those plants are proven performers. So that's kind of what I'm trying to create. So that's a great model to follow.
if your 10-foot buffer has damage in it, like from the storm, I see stuff sideways, and so I'm trying to think about how do I replant? And I won't take the roots out right away, but, you know, how do you wanna dig into there and plant trees and other things? Like, what do you recommend for that? You know what I mean?
Whatever you can get in the ground would be helpful. Again, it's root mass is what we're after.
Yep.
The difficult thing to figure out is, with all the debris, how do you work around that?
I've got dead trees and dead.
Yeah, it sounds like.
It's broken off and you can see that the wind blew it and damaged it.
I would focus on something quick and easy, because the last thing you wanna do is be rambling up all over these
Right,
old wood
right.
piles and fall in a hole or something. I'm thinking you use live stakes, because otherwise, you wanna limit the amount of bald and burlap stuff that you have down. If you're thinking, I'm gonna put in 50 bald and burlap trees down near the water, they're gonna get washed out unless they get established, because it's just a ball. Wouldn't you say, Allison? I mean, yeah, there's a big, I think I would really focus on live stakes, because if they come in and clear all that stuff out, they're gonna kill just about anything. But if you get a thicket of these live stakes, and it's growing, and it's big, you can pretty much drive a tractor or a truck over it, and it's not gonna hurt it. Even a flood won't hurt it, it just kinda lays down and it'll come right back. It's not like a tree that falls over, and now it's dead. These are pretty indestructible. They can, you know, the only thing that's gonna kill it is when Duke comes in, like they did at my place, and spray it and kill it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is that
Probably move it.
it's stalled again. All right, so you can see a restoration versus a repair here, lots of clear. All right, we do small scale projects, usually $15 to $30 a linear foot. So, ideally, we want to be working on streams that look like this, and not, the problem is we have so many streams that are in this more destroyed condition. We'll try to catch them early. So some of the variables when we look at this, do you have access? Are there any easements? If you're in a floodplain, like for example, we've been told we can't put live stakes over top of certain sewer easements because it's going to, some cities don't care. Others are very particular about putting any trees or any vegetative material over top of sewer mains. So, how about shade? The more sun, the better. If you're about 50% sun shade, the live stakes will still do well. But if you're dense shade, it's not gonna do well. Maybe shade's not much of an issue because of all the damage. So, height of bank, we won't get into that. I think you just plant anything. If I had a really, really steep bank and it was vertical, and putting live stakes into a vertical bank 5 feet off the ground is not gonna work really well. I would focus on putting the live stakes, as many as I could, at the toe of the slope. And then as any of the soil kind of sloughs off at the top, hopefully the plants will take and will sure up that toe. Any way you can secure the toe of the slope is critical. So that's what I would focus on. Like here, in this picture, along that toe of the slope is where I would focus. But just be aware of your easements. We talked about that. Let's keep going.
So if they're not gonna do good in a shady spot, would you do something different in a shady spot, or you just, hey, they take more time to?
Elderberry tends to do better in the shade, we found. So maybe focus on more elderberry if you can find it. It gets really difficult if you've got deep. Is this elderberry? Okay. Elderberry.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Okay. Now the stars of the show here, you can get live stakes. You can see we've got whips here. Some native plant nurseries have these whip bundles, and then live stakes. These are the hardwood stakes. You see, hardwood, we're talking about these. These are for the maggot. And when we are fixing a bank blowout, we'll normally start like a woody mass, if you have a woody mass here, this is in Raleigh. But we started at the top and put in a layer of coir, and then these are the whips. We put in whip bundles, either round, and just keep them tied up, lay them in, or spread them out across the top, just make sure the bottoms are in, and another layer on top, and just live stake the daylights out of it. Remember that one stake for every 3 feet? Well, our house was right there, so we really staked it. And that would be like a blowout patch, like on a tire. That's a very good technique. Gives you instant stabilization, and then once that starts to root, you get a massive vegetation. For relatively inexpensive, not a whole lot of money.
So is it the live stakes that's keeping the material secure?
Some of it. Some of it. And as they sprout and grow, it will.
But you're also using the wooden
We're
stakes.
using the wooden
Yeah,
stakes
okay, gotcha.
as well.
I see those now.
Excuse me, and what did you say the material was made of? Is it
Coconut. It's
okay.
coir. So C-O-I-R. So people call it coconut mat, coir. The reason we use it is because you cannot use anything with synthetic materials in it, like plastics. If you go and buy like Excelsior mat, the thing is you're gonna have to go to a commercial horticulture supply or landscape company to find this. What was the name, Renee, of the company?
There's a
Site one.
Site One?
there's a place called Ag Care Products in Candler, and there's a place in Black Mountain.
It's Professional Landscape Solutions. Yeah, they have rolls of it, of the cord.
The rolls, they're 160 feet long, and of course it's rolled up, so you can put it in a truck. And 6.5 feet wide, and it's about $180. So pretty cost effective. It winds up being about $1 for every 6 square feet. Is what that material costs. And you can make like a brush burrito of it. You can lay it out, cut it, put some leaves in it, put some sticks, roll it up, put it in a cavity in a bank, make a brush mattress where you roll it on top of itself, stuff the inside like a pillow with brush, and then stake that to a bank. That's a great technique. And it's very flexible. We will talk about that. So there's our coir. And this is how I store my stakes. My neighbor is a clean ditcher, and I am a native plant guy. So we have a running battle. My side of the ditch looks like a thicket. He rents a track hoe. We're in the Cape Fear. There's no buffer rules. He cleans out his side, and then when it rained the other night, his side got washed out, and he was like, your plants push the water over on my side. If he only knew who I was. If he would only come to the workshop. He's a clean ditcher. I missed a saw snake. I don't know, but he will not take the hit. This is one of our suppliers. This is Joe. He's out there with horse trough. This is how he stores them. So if you find live stakes, and if you're looking for live stakes, I would want you to start looking in fall. September, October is not too early. Call up High-Low Nursery. Call up Fog Mountain. Call up Mellow Marsh.
Learn to cut your own.
Learn to cut your own even cheaper.
Are those nurseries available in any material you gave us?
They're on the website.
This
here.
This one's on the table.
And it's on, okay, okay. And it's in here as well. You can do Google searches, but I would start making calls this year and then get on the list. And because if you start Christmas or you start New Year's Day and you start calling around, a lot of the commercial companies will have started buying them.
I'm sorry.
Question about locally harvesting from bush that you find. Do you recommend any percentage of taking?
I've heard 30, 40, 50%. Bill has suggested that you could probably cut the whole thing, just don't cut it to the ground.
Yeah, it's called coppicing, and you can cut it off to about a foot from the ground, cut everything off, and it will branch. And, because you're not disturbing the roots at all. And you'll have more stakes the next year, you just cut them as much as you want.
You can see that these whip bundles, we may call it fascine bundles, we call them whip bundles, came off a pretty big plant. As long as you're not, and this is the lower branch of this, you can see it's a pretty big plant. So as long as you're not shaving it off and leaving about this much, it's gonna regrow. So I would at least trim it. I wouldn't go any more than a foot or two below. Well, foot or two above the ground.
And what's the staking window, between when and when?
Mid-December to mid-March, when they start to bloom. How were these stored?
When they
Well,
burn out.
these are stored.
These were the ones that were.
Somebody donated these from town. So Becky, a lady who has a farm, Becky's Bounty in town, donated these elderberry for participants tonight. I tried to store them by shading them with a trash bag. You can see they still got light, so they still kind of sprouted. But you can try it. They're here for you to try to take home.
And how long can you store them?
You can store them as long as you like, as long as they're in water. Keep them cool.
Quick question, will deep freezes kill these?
No. No, I've had a bucket stored out by the shed and it was frozen solid and they don't care.
And do they need to root for a while before you stake them?
No. When they start to root, like you saw the whiskers on the one, they're ready to go.
Can you
just jam them in the ground?
But can you cut them and, like at this time of year for elderberry?
Yeah.
You just cut them and stick them in the ground basically?
Exactly. And that's what we want you to do if you get a thicket established. You go out there now and you can do it anytime. It's just that we don't want you down there in August cutting and sticking them in the ground because you're not going to be happy. They're not going to survive.
It's the same way commercial nurseries propagate their stock, and we call it asexual propagation. And they root cuttings. They just take short ones, 6 to 8 inches, and they dip them in hormones and all that kind of stuff. But these are easily rootable, and the ones particularly next to the water are you're going to get really high success rates on that. If you get them high up, water them, you'll have high success rates. But it's when they dry out that they tend to fail. Commercial propagators use mist systems that wet them every day, and that's how they get success. But these are easy to root.
What about in the sandy soil?
Just
the sandy soil.
if I was in, say, like a sandy bank, I would stick pretty close to the edge of water, pretty stream. Because in a clay soil, the water's gonna migrate up in the soil profile quicker, or not quicker, but at least more so. In sand, it's not going to be able to overcome the force of gravity. It's not gonna rise. So you wanna put it right there along that edge. Because again, they don't have roots.
So Mitch, I have a question. So
Yeah.
if planting is between mid-December and mid-March, then when can you start cutting? Like, once the plants go dormant, or?
Yeah, anytime. Most of the commercial nurseries may be involved in Christmas tree as well. They usually start at Christmas and after. Whenever they get done the trees, they start cutting live stakes. There's leaves on. You're outside of the prime zone. Bill has traveled the world working various projects, and here he is in Moldova at a fence. What's that fence for? What would keep that? What are we trying to keep out?
Animals.
Yeah, goats. Like our grandfathers used to say, 4-legged forest fathers. They come in and they eat everything. So now, if we could develop something like this and lay this on a bank using this material, it doesn't matter if they're this way, horizontal, vertical, in 3/4, it doesn't matter. If you laid it on a stream bank like this and were able to get nice cover over top of it and it stayed wet, it will root. So that might be a way to repair a stream bank right there. These whip bundles, you could lay them in and form a whip wall. If you've got enough of these, if you have a really severe blowout and you could get hundreds of these, you could lay them in like a palisade, right? Get a post hole digger, put them in the mud, lay them up against the bank, live stake between them, run a cord between them and lash them to the bank, make sure the butt ends are in the water, you can make a nice little thicket. So here we are repairing a blowout on a bank, just mudding them into the ground. Bill and I are thinking about, with Renee and Riverlink, starting a stream bank repair CrossFit class. Get your heart rate up, walk through the mud, lose your boot in 3 feet of mud. I think that'd be fun. Better than picking up tires and hoisting the kettlebells. I put this live stake in this ditch in January. This is what it looks like in March. The top looks dead, but that's how much it rooted. And there's the top. You can see it's kind of starting. That's after a year. It starts to coat this out. It's still sit. And these things are 6, 8 feet tall now. This is just a group of fascines I just threw in the ditch that was there before my neighbor dug it out with his track hoe. So he's my educational project this year. And see, look at that thickness. So if you throw this in your water and you come back a year later and it looks like this, save it, because this time of year you can dig a hole and just put it in the ground like a tree and it'll grow. All right, so here's the bank that you saw before. This is pre. Here we are laying in the fascines, and we have live stakes. I don't know where my live stake went. Live stakes between, and we lash it. And you can see some of the cord there. You lash it to the bank. The butts are in the water, and that's what it looks like after the first year. So this is the technique. You can be creative. There's no rules here as long as you keep the correct end, right? The root end down. Don't put them in upside down. We've had people put them in upside down. Hundreds of these upside down. It won't work. That's the only way you can kill it. But you know, you have to look at it. I mean, this one's obvious, right? Which way a tree doesn't branch like this. It branches like this, right? So you look at it. Okay, but sometimes you don't have that. So you learn to look at the nodes, and also sometimes the base is bigger. A lot of the nurseries will paint the top. And that's what I do. When I get something like this, if they're dead like that, or they all look the same, just get a can of spray paint and spray the top, so you know what it is. The top is up. So here's a workshop. This is the site that I showed you in Hendersonville at Patton Park, where we had 10 feet of water over top of it, where Bill was there, had no damage. That was the day of installation. Coir, stake it, live stakes, and no damage. There it is. You can see the size of the stakes. These are ready to harvest. You could go in with a pair of clippers and mow that down. Don't do it in Patton Park though. Yeah. Our floodplain manager / stormwater specialist, he would have a problem with that. So, but now we have a nice little nursery here, right? Dogwood, silky dogwood. Here's that blowout that I showed you before, where we put several layers of coir and put the fascines or the whips down between. This is what it looks like after a year. And not all the stakes take. I can see some coir through there, so we may have to get a few more and put in there. Here's Newland. I'll just flip through here. Here's the process. Go look at that and go, it's kind of below ordinary high water-ish, give or take. Yeah, this was the public works director. It was his backhoe, so I think we were on safe ground.
So you're saying, Derek, if that weren't the public works director, that wouldn't be okay to just do on your own?
You know, this is one of those calls that you make. He was comfortable, so I was comfortable with it. The poor lady's house was right next to this.
But the odds that I would need to get permitted to do that are
pretty high.
60%?
Pretty high.
Yeah.
And we had their floodplain de facto administrator at the workshop today, and she said they're enforcing no rise. But Newland's been flooded twice, and one of them was really big. And so they're real serious about it, and they need to be, because they're trying not to keep flooding. So she said today that they are enforcing no rise, which means fill, and they're creating fill there. So they wouldn't be able to do that now without getting approval. Doesn't mean you can't do it, just you want to get approval.
So if you wanted to do something and it looked like this, what could you do where you wouldn't have to wait? create that no-mow zone and just live stake it and keep it wet.
The 10-foot buffer, 10 to 15 foot
I would say at
buffer
least 10 feet, that
from
seems to
the
be,
edge of
it's
that.
just a rule of thumb, there's no regulation to
Sure.
that. Just a
From
rule
the
of thumb.
edge of that bank right there.
Yeah, you're gonna create a mass of woods. And if you've got a company that's taking care of that area, keep them out of it. We've had Bill and I, it's just legend. You know, you have signs, you have rope and everything, it'll cut right through it. So you need to make sure that they know to stay out of there and put up signage. So just to show you the example, there's lots of erosion control blankets out there. We just don't want, we use coir, you don't want this, because it's got plastic netting. The state doesn't like it, doesn't allow it, it traps animals and snakes and beneficials, and that straw and wood shavings disappears pretty quickly. This stuff will last 5 to 7 years. And it's a lot more stout. If you're looking for a native plant seed mix, like for example, if you want to put this matting down, we'll put like some native plant seed mixes, like a buffer mix, some straw, so we go seed, straw, matting on top of it, got a nice sunny area, want to dress it up a little bit. You could go to one of these suppliers, this is one, Ernst Seeds, they're in Pennsylvania, but you can search under products, you can search seed mixes and it'll give you a southeast buffer mix. And you can buy it. It's not cheap. 20 pounds goes a long way. You can do an acre with 20 pounds. And what we mix it with is grain, rye grain, or wheat grain. And you get instant kind of green up, it's like a companion crop. And then this is a little slower germinating, but it will come. And you'll get some instant rooting that occurs. Yeah.
If you have a bank that's already got the core in it, and you want to plant it with a seed mix like that, I guess I have a situation like that, and I'm afraid that the seed will just, it's such a steep bank that I'm afraid the seed will just kind of wash down. I was thinking of doing mixing like a slurry of clay and compost and just kind of smearing it, almost like grouting it into the core and then covering it with some.
It's a really steep bank and not a lot of topsoil.
I mean, no, it's like compacted Chapel Hill grit under there.
Oh boy, it's going to have a tendency to wash.
Yeah.
And if you could mat it, it would be better. If it's so steep that you can't, the best way to do it is straw. The old tried and true, blow some straw up there, or but if it's so steep that the straw is like slumping, that's a tough go.
Just thinking some kind of binder I could mix with the seeds to just kind of scree it in there.
Yeah, almost like a hydro seed.
Yeah, sort of self.
Yeah.
Low tech, I guess.
I don't know. That's a tough situation. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah.
That's a real tough situation.
Okay.
This is the mix. So rye grain is on the left. We mix it 1-to-1 with the seed mix and spread that out. This is kind of what it looks like. This is a native wildflower mix. This is in a rain garden, so not necessarily a stream, but this is what you can get. This is more showy. What we've done is more of a native look. This was at school, looks beautiful, except guess what we attracted? Bees. The teachers didn't like the bees. So here's an outside meander bed. It always seems to get eroded in the stream. So you can see before and after. Before is not bad. Like this is not terrible. I think I might have just live staked in this. See, we have rush down here. We have some invasives coming. I don't know if these are eastern red cedars, but maybe we could live stake this area here, especially down at this edge. Maybe put some junkets in. This is kind of, we could stuff some coir in there, stake it, right? But we decided, since we had a public works director, we'd lay it back and we'd mat it and then we'd stake it. And it was a good workshop event. So two approaches. That's what it looks like after. So you can see the transition, right? Rush and sedge, live stakes. What do you notice about the live stakes? They got tired, Lori.
They got what?
They got tired And they didn't put them in deep enough. See this one, look at this. Put them about this far, so you had to go back and reinstall them. And now, and then they put native hardwood shrubs here. So, no, we didn't bring any soil in, didn't take any out, and it was really good. So this is the cost for 100 feet of stream. And you can see the big cost there is the track hoe and the labor. If you do it by hand, you take those two costs out, and that drops your cost in half, maybe more than half. Okay, and that's at $50 an hour. That's funny how I found that out. So you pay your guys about $25 an hour to do this, right? It's like, nobody wants to do this. We have to pay a premium. And I've had real difficulty getting commercial landscapers to take this up. You know why? Workman's comp insurance. If you're on a mower and mowing around and trimming yards, that's one thing. If you're down on a steep bank with a chainsaw and a sledgehammer, right, and a clipper, using a razor knife, it's a whole nother category. So we're trying. We trained a lot. I don't know if there's a lot of people doing it. We had hopes. We had high hopes.
What are the roofing nails for?
The roofing nails are when we put the matting down, especially on the leading edge of the stream, we will stake it with the hardwood stakes. And we have found that if you put a roofing nail in the top of the hardwood stake, out about halfway, put it in about an inch, the roofing nail sticking out, when you hammer it into the ground, it'll catch the matting and the matting will lift up. So it's a real cheap way to do it. I'll show you an example. Here's a blowout on a bank, and that's how we fixed it. 2 layers of matting, the seams between. Let's see, I don't see any nails. Well, this is upstream, so you put the nail upstream, because if the mat tries to go, it's going to lift. So we put the nail there. So we hardly staked it here in the life stake. Okay, that's what it looks like. We need to do a little repair. That's after the first year it's holding. There we go. Very happy with that. We fixed 20 feet of screen for $12 a foot in this example. Okay, did you want to take a picture of that? You got it?
I got it.
You got it? Okay. I can let you have some slides if you want. All right, so, okay, here we have a steep bank. Now, it's not actively eroding, but you could do something like this. It's near a right-of-way, and the HOA was really concerned. So we had a landscaper out there. So we're gonna mat it, so they kind of denuded the bank. It was kind of grown up with all kinds of stuff. Now, this is one way to do it. We could have just live staked that bank, but we were afraid that the invasives would take over, particularly like English ivy, and I was just gonna grow over top of everything and just kill it. So we took it back like this. And here was the homeowner, gave him our manual. I'm gonna start with junkus plugs and live stakes at the bottom, up to about 3 feet. And then at the top of the bank, Virginia sweetspire, purple muley, some switchgrass, native switchgrass. And then at the very top, we were gonna put in river birch, maybe Baldwin burlap or Virginia sweetspire at the top of the bank. And here we are starting. And there it is. I don't see any stakes. We're starting to put the stakes in.
Yes.
This is in the manual on the website. But this was, she was an interesting character. She worked in Washington, D.C. for the Library of Congress. So she was very detailed and fastidious. And she read through it, she goes, does this look good? And I said, it looks outstanding. So there we go. go, and now this is after 2 years. No, 10 months. Wow. Okay, 10 months. So is it thick? Is it a kind of a thicket and wild looking? Yeah. Does it hold the bank? Yeah. Did the invasives come back? Yeah. So maybe we can go in there, and there are some techniques where you can kill invasives without killing the whole bank. Spot treatment. She went wild on plants. So now we've doubled our costs here. But look at all the trees, the river birches, Rudbeckia, sweetspire, plugs, live stakes, we loaded it up. Okay. This is the Mitchell River. We won't talk about that, but that is, that's big. Let's just kind of gloss over that. How about if you have something like this? This is in Casey, South Carolina.
Sorry, no, we have big. Can you not gloss over it?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was just gonna mention, so this is the Mitchell River House up near Dobson, if you've ever been to Surrey County. Mayberry. This is Mayberry land. This is the area where that whole Mayberry RFD was stylized after. And the Mitchell River is a huge river. This is 2,400 square miles drains to this location. So live stakes, sure, that's about all you can do here. There's so much water. In fact, this bridge over to the Mitchell River House, Bill, got washed out. So
We're working with Trout Unlimited there too.
Yeah.
We're highly motivated.
So there they are. And so we live staked that bank. It was near a DOT road.
You live stake at the bottom?
Everywhere we could.
So, and then work your way up?
Work our way up to 3 feet, and above 3 feet, go with something that's more drought tolerant.
Okay.
The live stakes will not survive, but it's up high.
Okay.
So we'll work on that, toe that slope. This is a tough situation because the banks are wasting, the soil is saprolite. Ever heard of saprolite? It's granite that's degraded. You can't even get a stick in it. It's awful. It doesn't drain. It's nasty. And this needs an engineered design. This is definitely beyond our pay grade. Plants aren't going to help the situation. And the trees are big, and she's losing her fence. So this is a situation where maybe we need to get beyond native plants. What about this? Let's talk about this for a minute. Is that near a structure? This poor lady, you could see up in her crawl space. The water was getting in her crawl space. This had been going on for some time. It got worse during the flood. And we're really trying to get the municipality to address this because that's a stormwater outfall. And what happened was, I think, the English ivy crept over and kept creeping over. It solved its own erosion problem because the ditch ran this way. All the sediment built up because the English ivy was here and it cut. Oh,
you touched the screen.
and it cut, I touched the screen. Don't touch the screen. And so it stabilized itself and it kept cutting this way because it couldn't cut that way. So the stream just kind of meandered. And unfortunately, it meandered into her house, and you could see cracks in the foundation. So now we need a structural engineer. And that's really beyond our pay grade.
Why would they build a house that close to a stream?
Well, there is a debate over whether the house predated the stormwater outfall. And whether the stream is actually a stream or whether it's a stormwater conveyance. Because if it's a stream, it's regulated. If it's a dry weather stream or a stormwater conveyance, then there's no regulation.
You can move it.
And you could rock it.
Or move it.
Right. So we're just thinking maybe she can work a deal out with the town and they can rock along her foundation and maybe shore it up a little bit. But this is one of those, just be careful around structures. Because again, her foundation is compromised. The footer's hanging in midair in this location. And she lost her propane tank. It used to be there, it's gone. So engineered designs, this is what they look like. Rocks, big rocks, big equipment, permitting. This is 65 feet of stream near a Raleigh home. It's what it looked like before. I'll end with this here, because we're about, what time is it? Tell me what time.
It's 7:14.
Okay, so
We'll do a real quick plant talk.
plant talk. So, this was a nasty little area, graded it back, native planting, coir. They even went so far as to put in rock riffles to help to slow and dissipate the energy. And this was an engineer design, we did the design. Here's some of the plant species: river birch, sycamore, tulip poplar, buttonbush. And all this, what an engineer design looks like. That you're looking at probably $20,000 to $30,000 for that piece of paper. Now, it includes more than just plants, because you actually do have a design. So this, you can see how much prices have gone up, because this was back before COVID. So $415 a linear foot is what this cost, with materials, plants, and an engineered design and permitting. So that's why we try to stick to these simple designs if we can, and non-permitted. So the signs are important. There's my do not mow sign. I got that off of Amazon. It was very cheap. I put it on very stout posts, and they hit it anyway. At least it made a hell of a noise when you hit it. There was some satisfaction in that. And do you have some signs that have your logos on it, or a town logo where you can put up no mow, no spray?
We do on the golf zone. Yeah, on the golf course.
Would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Be great promotion. You know, going in and having hundreds of those available. It's a good idea. There's my sign that we got here. So before and after. And I know that DOT guy. He's lowest responsible bidder. Okay. So Bill,
Plant talk, real quick.
we're gonna do a real quick plant talk.
And we'll talk to you about invasives.
Okay.
So what drives all this are plants, and I think you've gotten that now. And talk about what we use, and Mitch has covered a lot of it. Hardened structures fail, bulkheads fail, gating baskets fail. This is a version of Pillowcrete fails. We're doing shotcrete now. They have to, just to stabilize things, but if water gets behind it, it fails. And that's what we're after. And that's what we're after right there, believe it or not. Good stuff. We get surface water filtration. I won't go through these. But this is after a rain. And grass does not hold stream banks. And there it is. It's as simple as that. That's a ball field in Bakersfield. We saw one today on the Canyon River. Same thing, it's just gone. The grass didn't slow it down at all. And the reason is these are fescue roots over on the left, and the rest of these are native grasses and huge root systems. But our turf grasses are non-natives. They don't do all that well here in Florida. We're all the time managing them, replanting them, and they don't have big root systems. And you need it. This is actually at Bakersfield. Mitch is holding in a pump of fescue. What's going on with that bank? It's not being held. The septic system was between the creek and the church. This was before the rain. I suspect all that's gone. But grass is not going to hold it in those situations. What does? Panica. We have it today. This is at the slide on the right is at New Belgium Brewery on the banks of the French Broad. And those roots go down 12, 15 feet. And that's what you want. The ornamental trees, not so great. The slide on the right is in Mitchell County. Look at that tree is doing the job, isn't it? And you can really see it there, what it can do. And it really armors that bank. Look at this. This is in Mitchell County. Look on the right. That's a pasture with fescue. Look on the left. See any damage on the left? None. Natural buffer, no damage. Massive flood, didn't touch it. Look on the right, they got a mess. And so the grass is just not going to do it for these big events. So you want to do something else. We talked about ground cover. If you've got poor soil, like your landslide in this part of this, in North Carolina, we have what are the native pHs here in the mountains? Are they below
4.5,
There you go, so
5.5.
4.5 to 5. Like fescue on 6.5, these imported plants will higher pHs. If you're going to use grasses to stabilize a landscape, a landslide or a eroded area, the first and cheapest thing you can do is lime it and incorporate that lime, because it's so acidic, the roots get burned. It does it through hydrogen ions, it's acid. If you use ammonia-based fertilizers, which almost all of them are, they release acidic hydrogen ions when they convert to nitrate. It's all acid form, and these are very acidic soils, will not grow plants. Lime is cheap. If you got a bare spot, the first thing to do is lime it. If it's compacted, break it up. That's the other problem we have around houses, anywhere where even a dog running around can compact it. And if you've had construction going on, you've definitely got compacted soils. So compaction is a big problem too. Try to break it up. This is a guy on the right that does pond dam rehabilitation, and they lime it, and then they cover it in compost. That's what they're doing right there, chicken litter compost. Keep it out of the water, but if you've got poor soils, we call them critical areas, it will respond to it, and you can get some growth. You know, you've got fertilizer, limestone. Fertilizer is exactly what it says, but when it gets in the water, it turns into a pollutant. So keep it out of the water, keep it off impervious surfaces, and it can do a lot of good for these poor soils. And just, as you said, we got a lot of disturbed forests, we got a lot of disturbed soils too, and they will respond to this. You could soil test them in a pinch, just put it on. And soil, I don't know what the turnaround time on the soil
2 weeks
test
right
is.
now.
2 week, not bad at all. Fast growing seed mixes for bank stabilization, we talked about them. And you can get on the websites and find, this is temporary seeding. This is NC State, it's a repair and error seeding mix for the mountains, and it listed. So you can get good lists. The good thing now is you can get this stuff. You can get these seeds. We've got 2 plant lists. I think I do show them here. This is, you know, Mitch talked about Ernst. This is South Carolina native seeds. When you buy seed, the bag should have a tag on it. You need to read that tag and see what's in it. And because it's required there by law. It's going to have a germination percentage. And look at that real closely because you're paying for that. When you buy turfgrass seed now at a big box store, guess what you're going to get? It's going to say 50% coating. So you buy 20 pounds of seed and it's coated, you're only getting 10 pounds of seed. Read those labels closely, and it's hard to find like turfgrass seed that's not coated. You got to look for it now. They're making a lot of money off that. And the theory is it enhances germination, but it also enhances their bottom line. But read the label and see what's in it. Every time you drop a bag of seed, you throw it in your truck, your germination percentage goes down to 1%. It's a lie. Where do you store your bag of expensive wildflower seed if you don't use it all this year? Where's the best place to store it? In the freezer. That's the best place to store it, cold and dry. Don't store it in a garage where it's hot and humid. If they're picking sun, you'll kill it. But read that label, pay attention to what you get. That's Ernst. The straw, we talked about it. The secret to seed germination is soil to seed contact, and then you get it wet. If it's super dry, don't put the seed out. Just wait, but you're going to be storing that seed on the hot, dry ground. Put it out. If you can water it, that's good. Damp soil is fine, but you want to have soil to seed contact. And so you put it down, and if you pulled your bank back about where your rock is, you know, if you're going to grade that back, put the seed down and then cover it with straw and matting. It keeps it damp, and you have a better chance of germination. A lot of these plants, these wildflower mixes and native grass seed have very low germination rates. Some of them will take years to grow. They have requirements to make germination, so it takes a while, and you want to give them the best chance you can. So create the best conditions by doing that. That's why we use coir. It keeps it damp. The seed under the coir. And you know, you talk about patterns. Look to nature as to what you put back. Copy what nature has done, and you'll be better off. We do some herbaceous plants. Not real common. You don't always see, you know, rushes and pickleweed next to streams, and you can spend a lot of money on that. And so that's not a real high priority. We've got a good planting list. Now this comes out of the state of North Carolina, has a stormwater BMP manual. And it's got 2 good plant lists in it. We've got one for bioretention, which gives you upland plants, and we've got one for wetlands, which are wet plants. This is the bioretention mix, and this was revised in 2018. I was on the committee. These are all native plants. They're available. We had the nursery people in the room with us, and they don't grow it, we didn't list it. And it's got the scientific name, the common name, and beside it, it's got these little icons. If they're butterfly friendly, pollinator friendly, or bee friendly, or bird friendly. Because a lot of people want that. And so these lists are online, they're available, and you can get these plants. 30 years ago, when we started doing this kind of work, you couldn't get these plants. We did our first wetland, stormwater wetland, we had to go to Maryland to buy the plants. But you can get them now. We had a nursery grower in the group today on the Cane River. So we've got, this is trees, shrubs, look at the very top, and herbaceous plants. Or bioretention, those are more effluent, you know, that they can stand to be wet, but they prefer not to be sitting in the water. This is the wetland chapter, it's got a list too. And shallow water zone, deep water zone, it goes on. And then live stakes, Mitch talked a lot about it. We did this workshop with Renee, Renee had to leave.
She's here.
Were you back, okay, on Nasty Branch, what, 2 years ago? And we actually did it in Black Mountain, and this guy showed up. And what's his name?
Adam.
Yeah.
Adam.
And Adam is Mr. River King. And he had a little basket. And then a Cherokee woman brought me, so what's this basket worth? Well, we didn't know. It was like $400. And it's a native plant. He did his master's thesis. He knew a whole lot about river cane. He's coming tomorrow.
He's coming tomorrow.
Coming tomorrow. You want to meet him? He's going to bring some river cane. It is great stuff. There it is, the one we planted on Nasty Branch. Did that hold up, Renee?
No, all of that blew out.
Nasty Branch was at the bottom in River Art District.
Super nasty branch. Yeah.
It was a nasty site on Nasty Branch, and then it got hammered. But anyway, I was on the Davidson River in November with my wife doing some hiking. And the Davidson River drains the Pisgah Forest. There's zero development. It still got blown out, had big log jams, and that was across from where we were hiking. That's river cane, and it held up. It's got massive root systems. It is a great plant, and if you can find it, split it. You get the rhizomes. It's native bamboo. If that tells you anything. And today we had we could look down the Cane River and we could see a big stand of non-native bamboo. Of course, it held up, but you don't want it. But this stuff you do. It's great stuff. So there it is.
Where do we get
Is there a
that?
source for it?
Pardon?
Where do we get that?
You know, I don't know if it's available in nurseries or not. We saw some today on the Cane River. If you can find local stands of it and you can split it, take it.
What do you mean split it?
Get in there with a grubbing hoe and a spade and dig some up.
Just dig it up.
Yeah, just dig it up. You're gonna have a hard time. Look at the rhizomes on it. But that's why it works. But it's a great plant, yes.
Capitol Hill that sells bamboo that you can buy from, I believe, I'll think of the name.
Just be careful when you start searching on buying bamboo. Yeah, you don't want what you don't want. This is native river cane. They're the live snakes, and you know, Mitch has been through all this, and this is that site in Hendersonville. Somebody asked about putting it in. We graded this. They graded this back and realized that stream bank made a riprap, and we had to get those stakes in around buried riprap. It was not a lot of fun. But we got them in, and just like today, we delayed today's workshop by one day. We had an ice storm here in 2019. We had to delay it a day. Everybody showed up second day. Here we are planting it. There it is on the right. That's the herbaceous plant mix that came up. So it's getting you temporary cover. And it came up really well, didn't it? Because we covered it with straw and then we coired it and it stayed damp and man, we got a stand. So what you're worried about, the reason we put these mixes down is you're worried about a big event right after you disturb the soil and it blowing out again. So that's the other reason you want to use coir and you want to use a temporary mix. Is you can protect your investment in grading. That's from March to July. Redstone Dog on the right, Silky Willow on the left. These stakes will grow. They're amazing. Got a lot of carbohydrates stored up in them, and it's driving that growth. So they will grow. There it is 3 years later, 4 years later. Look at the size of them, and that's me there in November. Been under 10 feet of water. Unfortunately, it's got kudzu grown in now. We got to take that out. But this stuff worked. It was under 10 feet of water, and it didn't touch it. So it's a solution to a lot of problems. This was up in Hershey when we did a workshop up there. And what they do is, these were AmeriCorps volunteers, this is their livestock nursery. They take a tape measure and they measure the first one. And they cut it and put it in a bucket. And then they take a long stake and they use that one and they just start doing this. And they're turning out the live steaks. And we got everything we needed. Ernst was charging them $3.50 per live steak. We get them for 50 cents here. But you cut your own for free. Once you start this, if you cut your own, you'll get more and more and more. It's good for them to cut them back. And you can see how bushy those things are there, and it worked super well, super well. There's, Mitch has talked about vendors, so I'll just flip through that. We talked about where to plant them, I'll flip through that. And tree seedlings, you can dig them up. You can plant acorns, you can plant dogwood seed. The cheap place to get them is from the North Carolina Forest Service. I asked the lady from every county what happened to the nursery in Linville. She said it did not blow out, it just got covered in water. It's a nursery in Linville. They sell these environmental packs, they sell hardwood seedlings. It's the kind of thing you gotta get 25, that's a lot of seedlings, but you can give them away to your neighbors or whatever, but that's a pack of them right there. And it's a great place. You need to order them in like November. They got a website. You can go to your county forest service office. Where is it in Buncombe County?
Swananoa.
It'll be delivered to Swananoa. This bag of seedlings. And you can do it. And I've been involved in giveaways. It's not huge, it's 18 inches. You can take a spade and put that in the ground. It's not like a huge plant. And when you transplant trees, you're gonna have better success with a small one than a big one. It's gonna have less transplant shock. It's got most of its roots. You'll have good luck with that. And these are native species. So the Forest Service is a great place to get tree seedlings. Invasives, this one's about to bloom. You don't want it. You don't want this stuff. This is up Mars Hill. We came through 26 today, and you guys are getting wrapped up with this cancer. And it's called Chinese silvergrass. They're selling it in the big box stores. It loves it up here. Somebody in the soil conservation tech told us in Madison County, if it gets on your farmland value goes down 40%. Because the deer won't eat it, the cows won't eat it. It's got a waxy cuticle. It's hard to kill with herbicides. It's a tough, and it is taking over western North Carolina. You know about that one. You know about that one probably. Bamboo, we talked about it. It's a nasty one here. It's heavenly bamboo. These seeds are toxic to birds. Periwinkle, mimosa. You know this one. This is the mountain special right here. This is everywhere. We had this today, and this is a terrible one in the mountains. And what's going to happen, I think, with the flood is all anything's going to be transported. If you can catch them early, pull them up. It's a simple thing to do. Just pull them up. This is a bad one. And we've got a rogues gallery of invasives, and you need to keep them out. Now, if you want to spray them, you can. You can spray on your own property if it's a legal product with no license needed. But if you spray for pay, you got to have a commercial pesticide license. You got to take this seriously. And where do you find out what you can spray? Don't ask Uncle Charlie, because he might tell you, well, you can do diesel fuel in some magical blend. And that's not smart. This comes out every year as the current version. It's the North Carolina Agricultural Chemical Manual. You can call your local extension office, and they're going to look into this. If it's legal and labeled, it's in here. And this is online. It's for free, and you can look it up. And it's going to give you, a list of what's available, what for, give you a little information. A little information is a dangerous thing. If you really want to know, read the label. Now this, for instance, is aquatic glyphosate. What's the common name of that? Roundup. In this case, it's rodeo. And the difference between this and regular Roundup is this does not have a surfactant in it. A surfactant in regular Roundup, you can smell it. It smells like soap, makes it spread. It's toxic to aquatic organisms. Rodeo does not have that. All this is available generically. Is it safe to use Roundup these days? Turn on the TV, and you're going to see all these ads from lawyers. They got law, it's all going on. And if you guys are homeowners, but if you are a landscaper and you're walking around with a backpack, people are going to say, well, what are you, they're going to walk up to you and ask you what you're spraying. You need to have an answer, even if you're spraying in your backyard. And the factual information is this product is legal and labeled in North Carolina. And if you follow the label instructions, you are certainly within your rights to use it. It is still legal and labeled. Now, why do we use so much Roundup? It's a systemic. So when you put it on a plant, it is translocated to the roots. And in cases of these riparian zones, where you've got nasty invasives, it can be very effective. You don't want to spray broadcast. You want to selectively use it. It's a tool. It's a labor-saving product is what it is. You could go in there with a grubbing hoe and a spade and dig these things out, but you might decide maybe there's a better way to do it. And, you know, you can pull them, you can blame them, but there are other ways to do it. You can wipe them with glyphosate. One of my favorite techniques is you cut it and touch it with 20% glyphosate. They make a little dispenser here. This one's called a buckthorn blaster, and it's actually a bingo card marker. It's got a little foam tip, but if you don't want to bother to get down online, go to your local wherever, get you a liquid shoe polish bottle, pour out the shoe polish, wash it real well. You put 10 or 20% Roundup in here, and you walk around your yard, and when you've got sweet gum trees and Oriental bittersweet, you cut it and you take this. I just keep this one in my truck, and you just touch that to where you cut it. And because it's a systemic, you can take it down to the root. Now, I won't guarantee it'll kill it every time. You got a big root system, but it's pretty darn effective. And so it's a targeted approach. You're not killing everything. You can wear personal protective equipment, read the label, it's going to tell you what to do, and be careful. So it's a tool. You know, you may not like it, but you may come to like it when you realize what you can do with it if you're careful with it. So this is a way to selectively control invasive species legal. And it works. You can cut things and spray just targeted on this thing. This is an invasive workshop we did up on Grassy Creek with multiflora rose. Multiflora rose is a really tough one. Because if you go at it with a bush axe, the multiflora is going to win. And what we use are these little floral picks too. I've got them in here, some in there. My bag of tricks, go to Hobby Lobby, and you get these little floral picks. Oh, yeah. And you can also use a common water bottle. Now you wonder how in the world can I do, and this says caution rodeo herbicide. It's written on it what's in there. What we do is we take the privet or a honeysuckle, and you put that glyphosate in, you cut it, and you stick it on there. And it's going to translocate that herbicide to the roots. And it's particularly effective on multiflora. We put bottles on. One bottle will take a whole multiflora cluster out. And if you get it when it's actively growing, this stuff doesn't work very well during droughts. But when it's actively growing, it'll translocate it.
That's just a stem that you're putting that into?
Cut a fresh cut stem, stick it in there. We use electrical tape. Leave it on there about 3 days. It'll suck the whole contents down. It's actually very satisfying on multiflora. You try to explain that stuff, you got to
You can set up at 20%?
Don't go above 20% because it will clog up the vascular system. You can start at 2%, that's the label rate, but you can raise that. Don't get up much above 20 because it'll clog the vascular system. But it's a targeted approach. You're not killing everything, but you've got these nasty invasives, and it's a good way to get them out. If you're not averse, you know, it's personal preference. I guess it's like vaccines, you know. And everybody's got opinions, but this is still legal and labeled. This is just a targeted approach.
Where do you get the rodeo?
You can get it at any farm store now. Like Tractor Supply's got it. It's generic. You don't have to get. If you buy the rodeo brand, you won't pay for it, or the Roundup brand, but it's generically available. What you want to read the label on the chemical too. And if it says, you know, see what's in there. They sell a lot of stuff under, you know, sort of misleading names. Is that a fair statement?
Fair statement.
You know, and so read the label on the herbicide too, and see what the percentage of active ingredient is, because you're going to be paying for a lot of water. It's like coated seeds. Some of it is really watered down. You start buying it in spray bottles, you're getting very little product. You want to buy the concentrate and deal with it yourself. Read the label. Use your personal protective equipment. You don't have to be exposed to it. And but it's powerful because it's a systemic and it kills the roots. Does that make sense? You know why we're using it. And here we are putting it on multiflora rose, and you know, and there it is, and we took it out. You can get books on it, but that's how you can do it.
Does that work on kudzu?
It takes a while. Kudzu is one of those. We did a workshop in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, at a city park, and it was a farm that somebody given to the city, and it was being managed, they got an invasive control company manage this farm, they did a trade, and, they all came into our workshop, and I asked them about kudzu. I said, what do you guys do? You know, in English, I said, first thing I was curious, so what do you do about snakes? I said, well, we make a lot of noise, and then the snakes, and they run off. But they use glyphosate, and they do a tank mix with a product called triclopyr. Triclopyr, get it right. It's got other brand names. But you get an ag chemical manual, it'll tell you what's in there. But don't listen to your neighbors, and don't go on the internet looking for wild stuff. If you're in that book, you're safe, because it's legal and labeled. Who's going to turn you in when you're out killing the whole bag or digging up the bag? It's going to be your neighbor or your competitor if you're in a business. And the regulatory agencies respond to complaints. They're not riding around looking for people doing things. They respond to complaints. So when you're working in a stream or controlling the invasives, make sure you're doing the right thing. Check with everybody, right? And get permission, because forgiveness can be expensive sometimes, and sometimes humiliating to put your name in the paper. But get permission, know what you're doing, call the extension office, they'll help you out, call the town, they'll help you out, and you'll be in good shape. You can do this stuff. And realize that the regulators are doing it, trying to keep more destruction from happening, and people hurting themselves with products. So they're not doing it just for obfuscation purposes, they're trying to protect people. So I think that's it. We thank you for coming. We've got a workshop tomorrow.
Go to that website
We got 3 whips here.